this time of year, I guess everybody's noticed your last inspection, you probably have a decrease in the drone population and maybe a decrease in drone comb, hopefully. If you don't, there's more likely a reason for that, and that reason may be your queen. If you've got a lot of drones still in there, your queen may be playing out, and that's a good sign to let you know that's happening. And everybody knows when the weather cooperates, everybody's a good beekeeper, aren't they? I love that. When it doesn't, everybody's got excuses, including me. So if we do things right now, we're preparing our bees for the spring. And that's one thing that I see when I go around, especially like the EAS and HAS and the conferences. The beginning beekeepers are all concerned about the here and now, and the experienced beekeepers are thinking several months ahead. You know, what I'm thinking about right now, my treatments are on, and I'm thinking about when that comes off, what I'm going to do and how I'm going to prepare my bees for the fall flow, and that's what we need to be doing right now. So this is what happens when the bee population, and this is a great chart because you'll see as the population decreases, it's decreasing right here slightly, and the number of larvae is increasing, and the population slowly starts to decline. The day-old larva really goes down. And what that means is the queen's not laying like she normally would. The bees determine how many eggs the queen lays. And if they feed her heavily, she lays a lot. If they don't and they stop feeding her and reduce it, then the number of eggs decreases, and that's what goes on. That's how bees react to the climate. And right here, this is so important. This is when our winter bees are going to be developing and hatching as adults. This larva increase right here, these are the bees that are going to get you through winter. These are the bees that store vitellogenin in their body, which is a fat substance. You know, you'll see that most of the stores that bees put in the hive are normally, for the winter, are normally honey. But you will see a frame or two that's pollen with honey on top of it. And that pollen is going to be used to raise babies on down the road, but they're going to run out of that. And if you don't have fat bees or winter bees that have that fat bodies in their system to feed the new starts, the new larvae and the pupa that are coming out, you're not going to have bees that are going to make it into the spring. If you don't have, and fat bees live, or winter bees will live up to 6 months. Normal bee lives 4 to 6 weeks. And if you don't treat for mites or do something about the mite problem and they feed on your bees, you're not going to have winter bees because mites feed on the fat bodies in your bees. So when you go into the fall right now, and a good time would be after you get your honey harvest off and the population starts decreasing, then you're going to think about and check for mites to see if you have a mite problem. How many are treating right now? How many are planning on treating coming up? Okay. How many don't treat at all? Okay, I've got a friend that if you don't treat at all, he'll come over to your house and treat your bees for you. That's how serious he is about it. But anyway, this is what we're looking for right now. We're going to check the queen. We're going to check every frame in there. We're going to look for a good laying pattern. We're going to look for eggs. We're going to look for signs of diseases. And like I said, hopefully we'll have a decrease in the drone population because they don't need drones now. If you just got a few hives and you don't have a lot of resources around trying to produce a queen right now, you're not going to do a real good queen because you don't have the drones to make with. So, and that's natural for the bees. The bees will only produce a queen now unless you really force them into swarming, and that would be a really bad beekeeping endeavor if you do that. Or if they have an emergency situation where you kill the queen. Anybody ever killed a queen in their hive unexpectedly? I sure have. That's not a good situation, especially now. Because I've always been a proponent of local queens. Local queens and local bees, that's what you want. Local queens do so much better. If you killed your queen now, you're probably gonna have to buy a southern queen. And they're not, I have not had a lot of luck with them, not at all.
They still got them?
Do what, Roy?
Do they still have queens?
Kelly's had some a couple of weeks ago. So I guess they're still bringing them in. I know some, you can buy Northern California queens right now. Those are pretty good queens. They'll cost you, but they're good queens, you know, if you really need one badly. We need to do a mite count. At EAS, they were showing graphs of hive losses and overwintering success, and the commercial beekeepers had the biggest success and the least overwintering losses of any of the hobbyists or sideliners and commercial beekeepers. Anybody got a guess why the commercial beekeepers had the lowest loss? They treat without doing a mite count. They just go ahead and treat. Because if you have one hive in your apiary that has mites, guess what? All your hives got mites. I do a treatment regimen and then I count after the treatment. I'll go in and do a couple of samples to see if my treatment was successful. So, but that's up to you, but there's if you don't treat and your bees get a mite explosion, and that's what's happening right now, these mites are going to adversely affect your winter bee population, and then here's the scenario you're going to get. You're going to go into next spring, you've got a little cluster of bees and a frame of food. You got a little food out here, some food out here, and on the bottom board you got a big pile of dead bees. These are old bees. Anybody ever seen that? Yeah. And more than likely what has happened, the mites have destroyed your winter bees and your bees died of old age. Old bees have trouble producing heat in clusters. They have trouble feeding the new young and the larvae that come out. So, and also fall temps are good times to treat with some of the fumigants like Mite Away Quick Strips, which are very effective, and they kill, I think, 96% of the mites, even the mites under the cavities. That's about the only one I know of. Lloyd?
Talk about that dead bee on the bottom board. You got about, looks like half the bees in the hives laying down there dead, and the other half still up in the cold little ball like that.
Yeah.
Is that mites, and why is the rest of them not dead?
Which ones? The ones I'm talking about up here are dead too, and their heads are in there, and they made a last feeble attempt to heat.
They're alive, but there's a whole, say, half to 3/4 of the bees laying down.
And those ones that are alive are going to be dead anyway, eventually.
Well, they may be.
Okay, you just got lucky probably on that. And your bees down there that are dead more likely were older bees that just couldn't make it. They don't have the fat bodies, and you had just a few left over that just luckily got through the winter.
Was that definitely mites?
Yeah, I would say yes, it was. And you know, when you say mites, you say mites also reduce the immune function of bees. So the viruses are going to be prolific. There's 20-something viruses that mites can vector. They've only got names for 10. So, you know, it's bad. And if you don't do something about them and they get your bees' immune systems down, then anything is on as far as taking place in the hive. Anything can happen. Around here, our honey stores, we normally need 60 to 70 pounds. Larry's talking about feeding a while ago. And we're feeding now to increase the population and get our bees stronger, so when the fall flow comes, they can harvest more honey for the winter. But we need 60 to 70 pounds, which is 9 to 10 deep frames of honey. It doesn't hurt if you've got more in there than they use. You know, that doesn't hurt a thing. And if they do need feeding and you want to feed liquid, you need to feed before the temps get so cold that feeding is not efficient in liquid form, where you have to do candy or fondant. Now, mite treatments, there's fumigation types. These are the aromatics, I call them, such as Mite Away Quick Strips, Apigard, and Apolite VAR. I'm treating with Apolite VAR for the first time. I got a good deal on the strips from Glory Bee out in Oregon. They bought out Brushy Mountain Supply when Brushy Mountain went out of business. And normally a 10-pack of the strips is $50, and you can buy it from Glory Bee now for $35. So you can save a little money there if you want to try that. It is thymol. The bees don't like it. Bees don't like much any of these treatments that you do. And to me, it's one of the least favorite things. I just don't like treating my bees. They don't like it, I don't like it. They come out on the outside of the hive because it stinks in there no matter what you do, but it needs to be done. The drench method, I don't do that at all. I don't know anybody that's been very successful with doing that. That's mixing a solution of oxalic acid or something like that, and using a turkey baster, and you gotta have 3-5%. I think Dadant makes a drench sprayer thing with automatic computation for the solution percentage that you put in there.